Hi, I'm Britton LaRue, and this is Moon to Moon. Moon to Moon is a space to consider, celebrate, and share the ways we come home to ourselves, anchor through change, and uncover our power. 1 month, one phase, one loving step at a time. Welcome to Moon. I am so excited in this moment that this is like the 7th time I've tried to just begin the intro because I'm in a really excited space right now, and I am urgent to see how what comes out of my mouth creates questions and connections that bridge us to the glorious conversation that I have for you here on the Chthonic. So the moon is an early Virgo, and today I had week 2, round 2, with the students in Emergence Astrology Year 1. And listeners may know that in Emergence Astrology Year 1 begins summer solstice. This is the first time I've ever done it. And the whole first 9 months were a hermitage. So we just started meeting after the equinox. And I loved round 1, invitation 1 with the students. And I had this idea to take a step back and start it again with some emergent invitations, opportunities for dialogue, opportunities to talk together. And so I brought it through just a few hours ago, and it was so much fun. The conversation was so deep and philosophically exciting and heart-led. I'm like kind of dying here because I think that, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm starting to see the book from this experiment. Like, oh my gosh, I just feel so excited to be at the edges of what I want to do. But I don't know where I'm going. I just am listening to what's emerging and sharing it. And like, these individuals are exactly the people that are up for bantering at this place with me. And it feels so co-creative. It feels, it just feels like exactly like how I want the classroom to feel. Oh my gosh. So really holding that right now. My guest today is the teaching assistant, my co-facilitator for the 3-month salon period of Year 1, Emergence Astrology Year 1, Mariola Rosario, who's no stranger to Moon. Mariola's been on to Moon a lot of times. Like, I have no idea how many times. Most recently, Mariola came on for Unshaming the 8th House. You may remember that one. And Mariola is going to be one of the faculty for Emergence Astrology Year 2, which is taking form right now. And I'm building my dream. It's really exciting. And I love Mariola Rosario so much. She just, like many people in my space that are close to me, she came into my world really early. And we have been speaking astrology together while also living our lives, while also growing as human beings, having human experiences, witnessing and celebrating one another in our own pathways for 5 years now, like a long time. And I just find Mariola to be like that, just have that, the qualities that I just love so much in those that I have on a lot here. People who are just like brilliant with words and wisdom. Mariola is an incredibly poetic speaker. And she's also just so sincere from her heart, such a big-hearted human being, and just really loves to go to true places and to beautiful places. And that's why we spend so much time with each other. We really see this in each other, and it's a delight for me. So this conversation is an exploration of the Chthonic, which has become an obsession of Mariola's, perhaps always has been over her life. You may know, if you've heard us talk before, that Mariola is Scorpio rising with Scorpio sun, Scorpio Mercury. She's Pluto in Scorpio generation. Mariola has a profound Scorpio invitation in this life and really lives it and takes us to these places. And we've, from the beginning, connected through Scorpio, which to me connects us to the Chthonic in ways we'll explore. Because as we share, we met because she won a Scorpio reading giveaway that I did in the fall of 2019. And we've just been connected ever since. And Scorpio, it's like the Scorpio Taurus polarity has been such a binder for us. Really powerful. So when Mariola announced last fall that she had this new class, Chthonic AF, Rooting into Myths of Pleasure, Monstrous Fertility, and the Ecstatic Earth Body, I immediately signed up for it last fall. I was just like, yes, I want to get into this with Mariola. And now Mariola has been putting out new writing, particularly in her Substack, which I'm linking, which is like one of the best Substacks that exists. And it's one of the Substacks that I actually make a point to read because I know that I'm going to be inspired. I know I'm going to be given something that is going to like grow in me, And that's the most exciting writing. So Mariola's writing has been so alive as she has been promoting and really seducing us to come into her Taurus version of Chthonic AF. So I invited her to come and riff with me and share words and genius and inspiration and germination and generation on the Chthonic, especially through the Taurian lens, which is the focus of her spring version of the class. So let me just kind of bring you into that by reading a little bit from her website on Chthonic, which will help like bring in the term. I'm going to share Mariola's bio, and then we'll get to the interview. So these are Mariola's words, quoting Mariola Rosario. To be chthonic is to be of the earth, to belong to it, to come from the muck, the dark, the damp, the decomposing. It is also a point of connection, a mouth, a site of feeding, the above and the below intertwined. From this root the flower blooms, and the fruit eventually touches our tongue, a place of fertility, a place of life. It is no surprise, then, that chthonic deities, also called death deities, often relegated to the shadows of the underworld, have also always been linked to agriculture, fertility, rites, birth, and ecstatic body earth rituals. 6 months ago, in Scorpio season, we descended. We sat with the dead. We unraveled the monstrous and the abject. But descents are never endings when we live in cyclical time. Now in Taurus season, we find ourselves on the other side of the wheel, holding what has survived the underworld, what pulses with new life, what rises up, wild, unruly, ready to see the light. The chthonic is not just death and decay. It is also the body remembering itself, the land bursting forth, the ecstatic rites of spring. It is Persephone returning. It is Demeter's rage. It is Venus ruling both beauty and putrefaction. It is the body as a chthonic archive, holding trauma, pleasure, memory, and the wisdom of survival. I invite you into this Taurus season course, a dive into the lush, fertile deities, spirits, monsters, and archetypes that dwell in the body of the earth. We will root into these figures as mythic symbols, engaging them as sources of creative, embodied, and spiritual curiosity. As we moved through Taurus season, a time ruled by Venus, a planet of sensuality, pleasure, and earthbound wisdom, we will connect with these archetypes through a modern lens, weaving together mythology, visual culture, feminist thought, monster theory, astrology, tarot, and embodied creative practices. It's so beautiful. This is Mariola's bio. Mariola Rosario is an artist, astrologer, educator, and flâneuse, weaving together occult traditions and visual culture. Born in Puerto Rico and now based in Paris, she offers astrology and tarot consultations, leads right walking seminars through the hidden esoteric layers of the city, and collaborates with fellow artists, magicians, and curious souls in person and online. She has always found herself somewhere along the teacher-student axis and continues to seek alternative, compassionate approaches to pedagogy, ones that cultivate spaces of mutual aid, enchantment, and learning through co-creation. In June, Mariola will co-host her upcoming course, Chthonic AF, Rooting into Myths of Pleasure, Monstrous Fertility, and the Ecstatic Earth Body, unfolds throughout Taurus season. It explores the chthonic not just as something dark and buried, but as embodied, lush, and regenerative through myth, monstrosity, ritual, art, astrology, and more. This is the sister mirror course to Chthonic AF Scorpio season, which took place last fall. The course begins on April 19th and runs through May 20th. All people, experiences, and learning styles are welcome. In June, Mariola will co-host a dreamy retreat in Greece alongside Megan Fry, blending astrology, myth, yoga, rest, and culinary delights under the stars. This is an invitation to relax, play, reconnect, and root into yourself. As of this recording, only 3 spots remain. All bodies, genders, and experiences are welcomed. Mariola also writes on Substack, where she shares reflections on myth, art, monstrosity, embodiment, and the magic of language. You can subscribe and read her latest through the link that will be in the show notes, along with links to her website where you can enroll in Chthonic AF, as well as her Instagram and information in the link to the retreat in Greece. And I'll say that Mariola and Megan Fry, who she's co-hosting the Greece retreat with, we're both 13th readers together for the Magician's Table in its 2nd year in 2022. So I love them both very dearly, and it continues to blow my heart open seeing them continuing to support and collaborate and make fun together, to teach together, to dream together, to build together. Just, yes. So they're part of the Magician's Table webs that have been so mysterious and so beautiful in my life, and that touch in some way or another through the webs so many humans who come to this Moon to Moon podcast space. So without further ado, I am inviting you into this pleasure conversation with Mariola Rosario and encouraging you, if this resonates, to say yes to Chthonic AF this spring or next fall. Welcome back to Moon, Mariola Rosario, my old friend now. I think maybe I can start calling you my old friend.
Yes, my crone friend.
We've been connected since 2019. You've been on Moon to Moon many times. Yes, it's an old story now. And we met because I had a giveaway for a Scorpio reading, which is kind of related to our topic today. Yeah, I'm wondering if we can begin. We're exploring the term chthonic, especially with all that you've been learning with your offering, chthonic as fuck, chthonic AF. And I think the most fun way to begin would be to explore that word. I was surprised to read in your Substack that the etymology means earth or of the earth. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, we have this notion. Well, hello, thank you for having me, first of all.
Yeah,
So
welcome
happy to
back.
be here. So pumped. Yeah, and thank you for bringing up the giveaway, the Scorpio giveaway, because yeah, I think it's Scorpio that magnetized us to be together, like to start working together, and that's so much of what we're going to be talking about here, like the Scorpio Taurus axis, right? And
Yep.
so to go into the word chthonic, yeah, chthonic just means of the earth, like related to the earth. So literally like the earth itself, the soil, the roots, the bones, and then we can keep adding words in there, like whatever belongs to the earth, including, I think, us, our bodies, right? Um, and so like Gaia, like to start at the very beginning, we could say that Gaia, which is like the earth itself, no, it's the archetype of the primordial concept of the earth. Gaia is a chthonic deity. And so what I have been like exploring with this course, but really it's beyond the course at this point. um, it's this idea that like what is chthonic is not just death, right? We have this concept of the chthonic as the underworld, the death, like death deities, etc., which is part of it. But the chthonic is linked, very linked to fertility and to life, and vis-a-vis agriculture, which I'm going to get into later. A lot of these chthonic myths have a lot to do with agriculture, like how we tend to the land and how we feed ourselves as humans. How's that?
Mm-hmm. Taurus Scorpio already activated. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the womb, right? Like the earth womb is this like Scorpio, Taurus axis, and we can also like get into later if you want the significations of Scorpio and Taurus in the actual body, right? In medical astrology, like that's a very interesting um, notion as well.
Yeah. So you and I have a long history of together being obsessed with Scorpionic themes. You were a co-facilitator in my Scorpio offering years ago. Like, we love exploring this space. I've always seen you as someone who's like really tapped into this, the whole spirit of Scorpio, not just the tropes, but also bring in the tropes too. Like, where do they come from, right? So what I'm loving feeling from you with your explorations that we'll get into here is, um, it feels like the the underbelly is the underbelly exploration is bridging into like a much larger story that is revealing what has been like shoved away about the richness of the archetypes of the chthonic. So, yeah, what I think with where I'd like to begin is, well, a piece that when I took Chthonic AF last fall, you shared in the opening that like part of what fuels your fascination and what inspired you is your rage. I was wondering if maybe we could start there and what that has anything to do with the chthonic.
I love this question. Yeah, I think with the rage piece for me, it just feels like this thing that I've been told that I need to keep below ground, right? I'm feeling this in my belly almost right now. Like I just need to like stuff it in there so that I can go about my day and, have a pleasing persona to overt culture. But as we all know, these things that we shove into our bodies and into the earth, um, they have a way of erupting. They come out. They're part of you, essentially, right? And so, yeah, I think there was something about me that has always been fascinated by like excavating, like what does that mean, and can I go digging for that, because I feel like that's a huge part of who I am. And I want to unearth it and I want to like let it speak. Teach me your ways, Rage, right? Like show me the path that you want to take.
Mm-hmm. And the speaking part ties
Yes.
to the Taurus ruling the throat and Scorpio ruling the genitals, the cavities,
The holes.
the holes, the gaping holes, and where we're most vulnerable.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, do you want to talk about these holes in the
Yeah,
body?
go.
I mean, it's inevitable, right? This is the Scorpio Taurus axis. Like, these are gateways, I think, in the body or gateways in the astrological chart. For those of you that want to get into that and like look at your own charts, um, these are gates, right? They're entry points and they're exit points. Um, Scorpio ruling over the genitals, right? Like the places that are hidden, again, like talking about this rage piece, also like the hidden parts. And then like Taurus ruling over the throat, ruling over like the words that come out of the throat, the vocal cords, tongue, and the rage piece then coming out through the throat and into the world, right? This is
Hmm.
a powerful place of gestation and release. Um,
Yeah.
it's a very fertile place, this Scorpio Taurus axis. And often, it's like, oh, Scorpio, death, it's like really linked. Like Scorpio knows that things die. This the Scorpio part of ourselves knows this intrinsically, like embodies this. And then the Taurus parts of us is at the other side of this, right? Also, I think knowing that things die, but also that things need to be fed, right?
Mm.
Nourished. And we could say that the nourishments of Taurus, they come from this decay that is the Scorpionic landscape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in your work, mythology plays such a big part. And so it feels like it would be supportive for the imagination to speak to some of the myths that you like to weave into this exploration.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm obsessed with myth. I've always liked myth, but I have to say I'm wild right now. I'm in a moment where it's really out of control. And I think it's because these myths, they just keep coming back to me. And I wanted to ask you too, and also like just pose this question to the audience, right? Like, what is it about these myths, like the Persephone myth, that it just like there's something about it that keeps coming back to us? Like, we want to like keep digging, keep knowing, keep retelling the story. Um, I feel it in my body and I feel it in my psyche, right? It's like a psychosomatic thing, these myths. Like they come into your body and they stay there and they're very strange and uncomfortable. They're
Hmm.
not linear, but they're very evocative. So yeah, the Persephone Demeter axis, we could say, or myth, it's really at the heart of this course. I don't think I knew that when I first started to think about this course and this like framework, no, the Chthonic framework. But the more I get into it, the more I'm like, oh, this is a devotional practice for Persephone and Demeter. Like they are at the origin, not just of this course, but of everything. Of all
Yeah.
our stories. I think all the myths that we tell, for me, they all go back to this origin story of Persephone and Demeter. Um,
Would you
yeah,
be open to
yeah,
a telling?
Sure.
especially for any listeners that want a refresher?
Sure. I mean, let's see, where should we begin? It's a long myth, so I'll give you a summary. And of course, we're going to go super deep with this in the course itself. Um, but you may know this myth from your studies, right? Because we've been told that this is the origin of the seasons. This is how I first heard of the myth of Persephone's abduction. No, it's like this happened, and because this happened, we have the seasons. Ta-da!
Ta-da!
so, so the story goes that there's this young maiden, Persephone Hori. She's very beautiful, and she's the daughter of Demeter, who is the goddess of rain, very powerful, very revered goddess. And Persephone grabs the attention of, well, all the men around her, right? Everyone wants a piece of this young maiden. And so one day, Persephone is gathering flowers with her friends, as young maidens do, and the earth opens up, chthonic, the earth opening up is a chthonic moment. Gaia opens up the earth, essentially. Also, these flowers that they were picking, these are chthonic things. Um, so the earth opens up and out comes Pluto, right? And takes the young maiden down into the underworld, Hades, Pluto. I'm using these, we use kind of we flow back and forth between Greek and Roman here, but I guess we can call it Hades, which is the god of the underworld, but it's also the place. So Persephone gets taken down into the underworld, and we just kind of don't know what happens there for a while. We presume that she's there for about 6 months, more or less. And while she's down there, what we do know is that at some point she eats the fruit of the underworld. She eats a few pomegranate seeds, maybe 6 pomegranate seeds. This is debated by scholars. Like, was it 3 seeds? Was it 6? I think it's 6. This is the most that I've heard. Like, because each seed represents each month that she spent
Mm-hmm.
the underworld, which is, by the way, exactly the amount of time that it takes to go from Scorpio to Taurus and back again. It's a 6 month cycle. This is why it's all linked, and this is why the Scorpio Taurus axis is the framework for Chthonic as fuck. It's like it's the structure of the class, the 6 months period. And so in the underworld, Persephone ends up eating. We don't know like if she was tricked or if she decided to eat fruit. Um, we really get into this in the class, like what really happened, why did she do it, did she even want to go back to be with her mother, question mark. And so it is said that when you eat the fruit of the underworld, you are tethered to it. So voila, Persephone stuck in the underworld. And so I forgot to say this important part, this what is happening while Persephone is in the underworld, what is happening in the other world, in the upper world. This is a huge part of the chthonic story, because then the mother, Demeter, is looking for her daughter. She's desperate. She is grieving. She doesn't know what happened to her daughter. She just disappeared. And so this great goddess of the grain, of the harvest, of agriculture later on, she's kind of the one that feeds humanity, she drops into her grief, right? She doesn't know what happened to her daughter. And so humanity then goes through a famine because the goddess is essentially not working anymore. And so there's this period of hunger and famine that takes over the earth, right? There's this dryness and idleness that um, everyone is feeling, including, of course, the goddess herself. It's kind of like a reflection of what was happening inside of her is happening to humanity. She's the one that feeds humanity. So she feeds humanity food at first, and then she's feeding humanity hunger, famine, grief.
Mm.
And so eventually, long story short, because this is a long story, the gods, Zeus, and everyone, they agree that Persephone can come up to Earth for 6 months if she stays 6 months in the underworld. And so this is why this is linked to the origin of the seasons, of seasonality, right? Like Persephone goes up into the earth, and here comes the spring, here comes the joy, here comes the bounty, because presumably her mother is happy again to have her daughter. And so everyone benefits, humanity especially. And then when Persephone goes down, it's the time of somber, loss, dryness, etc., etc. How's that?
Amazing.
I
I love
left
to
out a
feel
lot
it.
of nuances, but
That's
yeah,
for
that's
the
the gist of
class.
it.
But yeah, like I'm curious for me the theft of innocence is
Mhm.
a huge one. Um the sense of kind of being abducted from the timeline that I was
Mhm.
on because of a traumatic experience, several, and that sense of like hovering mother is another one. Uh, a warped relationship to hunger
Yes.
related to grief that is that it feels like I'm not allowed to feel. Um, and then actually feeling more at home in the underworld and being afraid to tend to the above world because the above world also has scary things that happen. Like it's a
Mhm.
vulnerable thing to tend to the above world if you think at any moment you'll be pulled back down.
Right.
Those are some of my primal. I'm curious, like what if any of those things for you, or if there's certain ones that I feel like the ones you come back to the most.
Yes, I think as a metaphor, this image of being taken down, like being snatched down from your life into the unknown, this is a huge one. This is one where we could spend hours just talking about that one image. And actually, like in art
Yeah.
history, which is one of the things that we do in this class, is linking these myths with art, like artistic representations and how artists have viewed these myths, but also like, taking the myth out and just like, yeah, the idea of being snatched, like what the fuck, taken down from your life, Persephone or not. Um, but yeah, I was gonna say like that particular moment of the abduction, this is like has been an obsessive motif in art history, like throughout. There's many paintings like depicting this exact moment, and actually it's one of the very few moments where we see Hades in art history ever.
Hmm.
Like if you think about it, like, I mean, Hades had like this invisibility cloak, this like helmet, but this is kind of like Hades' big moment in mythology and Persephone's too. There's other
Mm.
stories, but this is the only story where Persephone is on Earth. The rest of the stories that we hear about Persephone, Persephone is already the queen of the underworld and is ruling the underworld. This is the only one where we get to see her as like a maiden or like her previous life before she became this super powerful ruler of the underworld. So yeah, I think as a metaphor, the being dragged down is something that we can all relate to. These we've all had these moments where when we feel like we've like our life has been interrupted suddenly, and now we find ourselves in a different landscape. I think that's a
Yeah.
huge one. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't until I was learning about trauma side by side with learning about astrology and getting closer to the myth that I began to sense into an empowered way of thinking about restoring power to Persephone. Um,
yeah, yeah. I think it's very normal, especially when we first hear this myth or see the images to want to like rescue also Persephone. It's like, no, like
mm,
don't go, don't take her. We we kind of see ourselves in that, but there's like something larger at play here. To go back to the Scorpio Taurus axis, is like Persephone has to die, right? It's hard to
mhm.
say that, because I'm not saying like this maiden has to die, but in the story, in the myth, it's important that she's taken down because it's this young maiden that is time to transcend. Like she's becoming something else, something more powerful. She's becoming herself, really. And for that, there needs to be like a stripping of the mother, innocence, the life that she once knew. Um, and so it's messy. This myth, this talking about this myth is very messy. It's complicated because
Yeah,
we don't want this to happen, really. Like on a logical level, this is horrific.
yeah.
Mm.
And yet there's another part of us that's like, this is an unfolding story that it's important that she go through this.
Yeah. And then so that's the metaphor, right? But then one thing that I've been like really like researching lately is this more like ecological, geographical, and climate based retelling of the story because a lot of these myths, like not all, I mean, all these myths are happening in a very specific context. And so in the sort of standard telling of the story, the idea is that Persephone is taken in the fall, right? During, let's say, Scorpio season. This is why we talk a lot about Persephone during Scorpio season, because this thing of like going down into the darkness, into the unknown, and being both like terrified and turned on by it is a very Scorpionic thing. It's very erotic.
Hmm.
Um, so there's this idea, no? Okay, in the fall, in the autumn, when things are beginning to die, the metaphor is that this is when Persephone goes down. And then she comes back in the spring when everything is blooming back again. But really, like, there's a lot of scholarly activity out there to suggest that actually Persephone is taken down not in fall, but in spring, because the narcissus flower is a big symbol in this story. Um, Persephone is hanging out with her friends, and she sees this amazing narcissus flower, which blooms in the spring. It's actually blooming right now as we're talking. I just saw some narcissus flowers
Oh.
before, and every time I see them, I'm like, oh, Persephone. um, so there's this other path, right? That Persephone goes down in the spring and comes back in the fall. And this, to understand this, we need to go to like the territory of this myth, of these stories, like the land itself. We need to place our feet in the ground of where these things originated. And of course, we're talking about Greece, we're talking about a Mediterranean climate. And in Greece, it's the summer that is the death season because it's super hot and nothing grows in the summer. Summer in the Mediterranean climate is the idle place. It's like eighth
Mm.
house topics. Um, so yeah, nothing is growing. It's very dry. We need moisture. We need rain for things to grow. And in Greece, that is the autumn. And so if we think about it, Persephone coming back in the autumn, bringing the moisture, bringing the possibility of life, rain, so that things can grow in the winter. So when
Mm.
I think about this, it just like really like opens up the story, and it opens up also the Scorpio Taurus axis, this like significations of Taurus and Scorpio, and like it gives it more breadth. Oh, what do you think?
Yeah. And yeah, it makes it less well, to me, it just opens up the possibility of the relativity
Mm-hmm.
of it so that you can apply it to wherever you are.
Exactly. It's a loop. With this, we
Hmm.
know that it's a loop, it's a cycle, and it actually, I'm saying this because I find it interesting to take things back to the territory, to place ourselves back there. But as a metaphor, like, does it matter? Maybe, maybe not, because we know, you and I, Brittany, and your readers know this too, I'm sure, that we can be in the spring physically, like outside it's spring, but internally we are in the fall or in the summer or whatever the fuck, because there are cycles within cycles and storylines within storylines. And so I think also like placing it in this kind of agricultural sense or like ecological storytelling, it opens the possibility for that as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. What I've been very I feel like in the fall you were doing a play on the senses, and then lately you've
Yeah.
been doing a play with the elements, and it just feels so rich creatively. I'd love for you to share like part of your creative process in being in the chthonic space and having ideas for how to resource ourselves through like different categories like senses or elements. Just kind of
Yeah.
share where you're at with that.
Thank you. Yeah, I love this question. Well, first of all, I think the chthonic space is a very rich space. That's another possible misconception out there, no, that the chthonic or the underworld, when we're in the underworld, in an underworld moment, there are no resources. When we know, like,
Wait a sec.
maybe there's a lot. Maybe there's some pomegranate seeds there for you. Um, but yeah, in the fall, I was really like really tuned into this idea of the senses to like access the chthonic, right? Like you don't obviously have to physically travel to the depths of the earth. You can do this through the senses, through food, through images, through sound, through your voice. Um, and it's a very sensual experience. Actually, I was doing this during Scorpio season, but it's a very Taurian methodology, right? To enter things through the senses. So I was like playing with that axis already. And then now, um, with this wordplay, I've just been thinking a lot about how we generate meaning, how we how we talk about the origin of things, like the origin, like coming. Well, I'll just mention like the word seminal has been like really on my mind lately, which is a word that comes from, well, maybe you don't know what seminal is. So seminal is a word that is used or overused to signify like importance. No, like a seminal work of art is a work of art that changed the course of history. A seminal book is like the book that you have to read. For example, to learn astrology, there's like the one book, right? And yeah, I was like, wait, doesn't seminal come from like semen? Like, not that
Yeah.
I don't have anything against semen. Like some people, when I posted this, they were like, "Are you like hating on semen?" No, like please, people. But
Hmm.
it's about this origin of things being like kind of a phallocentric experience, right? Like male dominated, coming from one source. And I've just been thinking about creativity and generativity as something that is collective, that we generate together, right? I think this is something that we do in a lot of your spaces with the people that join them. Like we're creating meaning, not in a seminal way, but in a what I was saying is like germinal or rhizomatic, collective, emergent, whatever, all these words that are, um, I guess, decentralizing uh, narratives. Uh, you
Yes. I'm so
reclaiming.
glad.
We're reclaiming, basically reclaiming language and
Hmm.
creating new
Hmm.
language. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
So you had shared these these prompts to connect to creativity through the different elements. I'm curious if you want
Yeah.
to share some of that.
Yeah. That's so fun. So let me see. Maybe I have a couple here. I was thinking about that before I came on. Yeah. So I created this, what I called the rebellious glossary of generativity.
Yes,
I love the word glossary.
I
Very
do
nerdy.
too.
Yeah. So I said, this glossary is, it's a response to the word seminal, right? And I organized it elementally. It's compostable, it's sensuous, it's messy, it's alive, it's incomplete, and it's emergent. And I really feel like this is kind of the color of that Scorpio Taurus axis. So, like, for example, a word that I put for earth, let's see, let's find a good one. Well, chthonic is one of them. I mean, of course, chthonic, of the earth, of the underworld, fertility through decay. Then for water, the water ones are really good. One of my favorites is tidal.
Oh my gosh. I really want to read all of them. Is it okay if I do that?
Yes. Do you want to read them? Do you have them?
I have it in front of me. Are you cool with that?
Yeah, of
Uh,
course.
okay. Earth, the slow, rooted, fecund, or do you say fecund?
I
I,
I
I was, we
say
were, I'm a
fecund.
fecund. Okay. Examples, germinal, life beginning underground, full of promise. Mycelial, intelligence that spreads through hidden connections.
I love
Fruiting,
that one.
I know. Fruiting, emergence after long unseen labor. Rhizomatic, sprawling, networked, non-hierarchical. That's a favorite word for me.
Yeah.
Com Compostive, breaking down into something richer. Chthonic, which you mentioned, of the underworld, fertile through decay. And then next is water. And I just want to pause to say, I think for listeners, hold on, and I'll pull these up so you and I can both look together. For listeners, you can almost feel into your own chart to tap into these words as like catalyzers or as inspiration for one's own processes. Yeah.
Yes,
Don't
yes,
you feel
that's what I
like?
was thinking. And then
Mm-hmm.
combining them, because that's kind of what we're doing with the birth chart anyway, like combining all these archetypes and all these
Yeah. Okay.
feelings.
Water, the gestational emotional fluid. Suggested glossary words. Amniotic, held in fluid, protected and forming.
So good.
Welling. Ugh, I'm like getting turned on talking about all these. Welling, rising up from deep sources, often unexpectedly. Osmotic or osmotic? How do you think?
Osmotic. I
Osmotic?
probably like some of these words, like compostive, I guess like I
You may
invented
be
that
made
word.
up. I love. Okay, osmotic, absorbed through proximity, seeped rather than shouted. Tidal, rhythmic, moon called, nonlinear. Collective gestation, ideas or creations incubated across bodies, voices, generations. Yes, please. Fire, the eruptive, the catalytic, the visionary. Keywords, igniting, the moment before the flame catches. Volcanic, pressure built, then explosive, deeply transformative. Catalytic, provoking reaction, alchemy in motion. Oracular, visionary, arriving through flashes or thresholds. Alchemical, transformation through mystery and intensity. And this is, we'll link to this. This is from Mariola's Substack, which is an incredible Substack. Air, the communicative, the networked, the reverberant. Oh, good one. Pollinating, cross-fertilizing across difference. Hmm. Echoic, bouncing between times, spaces, bodies. Mariola. Weaving, threads becoming a tapestry, voices interlacing. Resonant, what keeps vibrating long after it's heard. Infectious, spreading not through force, but through energy. And then it's almost like you added underworld mythopoetic as another element. You're like,
Yeah,
yeah,
basically. Yes,
because
exactly. I was like, well, since we're here,
let's do this one, which you're calling the ancestral, the monstrous, the sacred. I want to come back to the word monstrous, by the way. Let's
yes,
footnote that.
yeah.
Um, and your keywords here are chthonic, of the deep earth, the dark, fertile ground, ancestral, passed down through story, dream, blood, and breath. Threshold, where one thing ends and another begins, liminal. feral, unclaimed, undomesticated, holy in its wildness, monstrous, what has been cast out, now returning with power.
Ugh,
Oh my gosh.
I know.
How you must have been like having the best
Hi.
time.
Really?
So
Yes.
fun to
I've been
read.
having so much fun thinking about these things, making those posts, thinking about Chthonic as fuck, thinking about monsters, like becoming a monster while I think about these things. I feel very high and very happy and like reinvigorated because as you know, like we're going through it,
Yeah.
like this is like something we can talk about is like why care about these things right now when there's so much going on and for me I think there's something about like returning to my vigor and to my body and like returning myself to the possibility that we can create new realities and new words and mix things that we know and have worked through already with things that we have yet to create. There's just, I guess it's a territory of hope, I guess, for me.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that makes me feel emotional.
Mm.
Yeah. The language is so sensuous, and there's something, yes, invigorating about meditating, playing with, creating from like an earthy language.
Yeah. Very sensual.
So, and and then I think I saw somewhere you mentioned something about spells. It's like
Yes.
with those words, casting the spells for
Yeah, like
self and world.
creating spells and also eliminating spells, you know?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Both. It's like we need to speak things into action and we also need to like, cancel some shit.
Yes. So that brings us to the monstrous.
Yeah.
I'd love for you to share. I don't know what is the monstrous for you? Like, how is the monstrous a realm for self-claiming all the things, creating spells, banishing spells?
Yeah. So much monster wisdom out there in these myths. That's how I first began like the monster aspect, like monstrosity is a big word in Chthonic AF, because a lot of these myths um, have monsters in them, quote unquote, hybrid creatures, scary creatures, beings that live at the edge of society, like Medusa, creatures that symbolize in many ways a threshold between what is safe and what is not safe. Like, don't go after this. Like, once you see Medusa, it's like you've already gone too far, perhaps. Um, so yeah, monsters as like markers of the edge of things that live outside of the order, outside of what is quote unquote normal. Um, And also, as we know, like monsters are these things that live outside of the order, but they are also created by the order, right?
Hmm.
They're both. And then, so with Chthonic AF, there's almost like a framework of like reclaiming monstrosity as something that we have to do now, right? Reclaiming the edge, like lighting a fire from the edge and call all the other monsters in. There's that. So it's a very generative view of monstrosity. of otherness, of queerness, of transness, of bodies that don't fit the norm, bodies that are viewed as problematic. Um, but it's like liberatory monstrosity because there's two, like monstrosity is a very complicated word because, for example, like every time Trump does something horrific, I think this is a fucking monster. Here
Hmm.
comes the
Hmm.
motherfucking monster again. But this is not the monstrosity that we are claiming in Chthonic AF, right? Um, there's nothing liberatory about Trump or people like him, right? They are the order that we are from our monstrous uh, sidelines, hopefully going to vanquish.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm. So yeah, this like generative monstrosity that I have been swimming in and playing with the people that have joined. And then at the other side of that, there's like this sort of fear, like performative fear mongering monstrosity that is like the performance of white supremacy, uh, ecological collapse, like et cetera, et cetera. I'm not going to name all the atrocities, but I think you know what I mean. And part of working with monstrosity is being in that paradox of that word, right? It can mean
Yeah.
many different things, um, and yeah, monstrosity, yeah, monsters. Some of our ancestors are monsters
Yes.
of
Yes.
both kinds,
All the kinds.
all the kinds. Yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it
you
feels
have to
like
sit with it.
I mean, there's no way to get into the Scorpio Taurus axis without an availability for paradox, it feels like,
Hmm.
and holding all of those different things at once.
Hmm. Exactly. Yeah.
But what a generative place.
Exactly. There's fruits. There's juicy fruits in this place if you decide that this is where you want to walk. And I am humbly proposing that we do. Not just
Yes,
like I don't mean just the class, like whatever. The class is like a little blip in this whole thing. Um, I mean this like as a way of life, as a way of resistance, as a way out.
yes.
Yeah.
So tell us about how to join the class. What is the class? How many times do you meet? What's the exploration?
Yes, so it's a month-long container. It begins Taurus season, ends at the end of Taurus season. So it's a Taurus season course. That doesn't mean that it's an astrology course. Like we're not just like doing astrology, but astrology language is going to be part of the framework. It's 1 month. Every week we have different recordings that touch on different topics that have to do with the chthonic monstrosity. So at least one monster a week. This is my what I want to do. One monster a week from the perspective of Taurus. So this is very different from what we did in Scorpio. Like we were really in the underworld, like some of the monsters that we saw were Medusa, the sirens, and those guys will be here as well. But there's some new creatures that are coming in this season. The Earth ones. It's
Hmm.
not so watery. It's more like Dionysian, ecstatic um, creatures. I want to reveal.
So, doors open or like you begin around
Yeah, we
April
begin April,
20th-ish.
yeah, basically
Hmm.
like April 19th, 20th, and then we end on May 20th. So that's the whole season, the whole yeah, Taurus season. I'm gonna leave the doors open, I think, till the very end. I don't want to close them in case someone wants to like dive in, like, well, at the last minute. This usually happens, right? We welcome you, last minute divers. And yeah, it's like divided by weeks of week one monster, one like specific topic. Of course, Persephone and Demeter are going to be there. Like we're gonna talk a lot about this from the lens of Taurus, which we did talk about this from the lens of Scorpio last time. We're kind of like flipping the script and talking about what that means. Also, the Eleusinian mysteries, like all the different sort of festivals of spring, the rites of spring, and then something very special that we do is linking these myths with art, like visual
Yes.
culture. How has this been seen by artists, all types of artists, performance, theater, etc. Music is a big part of it too. And then I do these things called the creative contemplations, which I really like. And they're kind of similar to this glossary that we were reading. You know, it's just like using our creativity to like allow ourselves to create new worlds. I don't know, like the possibility of like making something new with your body or with your voice. And so it's a way, it's like a more somatic integration of these myths. Um, so there's body movement, there's prompts to encourage you to make some art if you want, get messy, etc. Like do rituals. And then we're also gonna have some ritual practices as well. And then there's 3 live meetups only, and they're for integration, witnessing, being together. And yeah, you can do the entirety of this course asynchronously. Just gonna say that.
For all the asynchronous
Yeah,
students out there.
yeah,
Uh,
synchronous or asynchronous, everything is gonna be recorded. It's like your cave space concept, you know, like some people, especially when it comes to the Scorpio Taurus axis, like we need that cave space to process things. And so this is great. This is the class is
yeah,
designed to accommodate all forms of processing.
I enrolled the moment you announced it last fall. It is so glorious, really, to watch this sprout through you. And I am salivating over the latest Taurian iteration. It really feels like if this is your world, it feels like both taking it again is like, why not, you know?
Yeah.
Because it
Yeah, it's
sounds
the
like it's going to
mirror.
be different. Yeah, exactly. Just
Yes.
such a rich space to take what you like, take it all, feast.
Mhm.
And thank you so much for coming on and sharing about it. And I'm hoping listeners will come play.
Thank you for having me.
Thank Thank you so much, Mariola. Thank you, listener, for exploring with us, encouraging you to follow the resonance. If you are enjoying Mariola's voice, her approach, her ways with invitation through astrology and mythology, inviting you to continue to hang with Mariola through following her Substack, which I cannot recommend more, by following her on Instagram, enrolling in one of her offerings like Chthonic AF, or booking her for a reading. She's just absolutely incredible at connecting to archetype in ways that enchant, enliven, expand, and deepen your relationship to the language and to your chart. So thank you. And if you are loving this conversation, if you love Moon to Moon, I would love for you to rate and review it. If you never have, it means so much to me. I have a new review, and that's always super fun to receive. Thank you so much to Anna F. Albee, who writes, "Thank you. Moon to Moon continues to be a trusty, comforting companion for me as I walk the mystic path. I have done many rounds of dishes tuning in and have found myself laughing out loud with you from time to time. Thank you, Britton, for your voice and your presence." Thank you so much. That's such a sweet note, and I have been told by many listeners that Moon to Moon is a companion for you for the daily devotionals, like doing the dishes, and that just like really couldn't make me more happy. Like, oh my gosh, that is exactly the kind of time space that I created this for, like that feels so true to me that it would be coming in through that channel that we get into when we're our hands are busy rhythmically and the mind can just open. Yeah, that's like so yummy. So thank you for that review. And I would love yours, dear listener, if you haven't done one yet. We're at 96 ratings now. It's so exciting. At the beginning, it's like, one more, oh my gosh, and I'm almost to 100. So thank you for helping me get there, and I'll see you at the next one.